Idaho Matters is one way to learn about the people, the places, and the things that make Idaho unique. From the geography, the flora and the fauna, to the culture and arts of this place that we call home. Subscribe and listen to Idaho Matters today at boisestatepublicradio.org/podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Good morning. Happy Thursday. This is The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Troy Oppie. At the State House, bills governing the death penalty in Idaho and a grocery tax credits are both headed to the governor's desk. Lawmakers also taking another shot at unraveling the state from its current physician education partnership, WWAMI. We also have more from the Boise Office of Police Accountability Director on recommended changes to the department. But let's get going right now with a major court hearing in federal court in Boise yesterday. Attorneys for St. Luke's Medical System argued that Idaho's strict abortion ban should still be blocked from taking effect as they bring a new lawsuit against the state after the Trump administration dropped a previous lawsuit brought by the U.S. Justice Department under the Biden administration. Julie Luqueta has the latest.
The original lawsuit argued Idaho's law conflicts with the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, or EMTALA, requiring hospitals receiving federal funding provide stabilizing care, which can include abortions. Idaho's ban only allows abortions in narrow cases of rape, incest, or if the mother's life is in danger. On Wednesday, shortly after the Trump administration dropped the federal suit, U.S. District Court Judge Lynn Windmill heard arguments in St. Luke's case filed earlier this year. The plaintiffs asked the judge to block the ban from applying to emergency situations while the case makes its way through the courts. This injunction would replace the one dropped by the Justice Department. St. Luke's argued state law could not supersede a federal mandate. Speaking after the hearing, St. Luke's counsel, Peg Doherty, said they want emergency doctors to be able to stabilize pregnant patients.
We want them to receive the emergency care that is available to anyone who presents to an emergency room. That is our goal.
The state said the abortion ban does not conflict with the federal mandate, arguing EMTALA only requires hospitals to screen and stabilize patients. Defendants said it cannot dictate standards of care beyond that. Dr. Kathleen Keating attended the hearing. The OBGYN at a clinic affiliated with St. Luke's pushed back against the state's arguments, saying stabilizing patients was not black and white.
That's not what we see as physicians. We see the impermanence of stability.
Especially, she said, because a pregnant woman's condition can change quickly.
People can go from very, very stable to life-threatening, running down the hall. This person is possibly going to die even if I do intervene.
OBGYN Ann Feiner attended the hearing and also works for a St. Luke's affiliate.
And I do not think it should be my job in the middle of the night to figure out which law supersedes the other.
The judge is expected to make a ruling on the injunction request within the next 2 weeks. The Attorney General's office declined to comment on pending litigation. Julie Luqueta, Boise State Public Radio News.
On to the State House now, where a bill making the firing squad Idaho's primary execution method is on its way to the governor's desk. Our James Dawson has more.
Idaho has had trouble executing its death row inmates in recent years. That includes an attempt last year to kill Thomas Creech. Corrections staff failed to find a suitable vein after 8 tries. Republican Senator Brian Lenny says opponents calling the firing squad barbaric should closely look at crimes committed by death row inmates like Creech.
He killed at least 5 that we know of, according to his own words, up to possibly 42 people. One of them he beat to death with a sock full of batteries.
Lenny called death by firing squad a, quote, act of mercy. Republican Senator Dan Foreman rejected that argument.
Projecting a piece of metal at 3,200 feet per second, give or take, through the human body is anything but humane.
Foreman is a former cop who says he wishes he had never seen how bullets tear apart the human body. He was the only Republican to vote against the bill. Governor Little will consider the issue next. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
The United States could get its first firing squad execution in 15 years this very week. The state of South Carolina is set to execute a 66-year-old man convicted of murder. The man chose firing squad as a method of execution, claiming lethal injection might be torturous. Autopsy reports for 2 previous death row prisoners executed in South Carolina showed each took more than 10 minutes to die after the lethal injection process began. State lawmakers have set a revenue projection after nearly 2 months of deadlock. The Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee yesterday predicts Idaho will rake in $6.4 billion in the upcoming fiscal year. Early revenue forecasts for February came in $50 million short of projections. But the state's budget chief, Keith Bybee, told JFAC tax collections are up overall compared to this time last year.
Still pretty strong growth on general fund revenues, but not keeping up exactly with that forecasted level.
JFAC adopted the revenue goal after lawmakers had already finalized several budget bills, and both the House and Senate agreed to a more than $250 million income tax cut package earlier this week. Legislation that would bump Idaho's grocery tax credit by $35 for most people is headed to the governor's desk. State senators signed off on that legislation yesterday. Those who file taxes in Idaho could claim the credit for $155 beginning next year. A handful of lawmakers, though, unsuccessfully tried to have the bill amended. They instead want to completely repeal the sales tax on groceries. Republican Senator Tammy Nichols of Middleton supports that goal, but says it's not going to happen this year.
There is no path forward to repealing the grocery tax. We know that. So we're at the point in this time where we're either going to give the people of Idaho back something or nothing at all.
Governor Brad Little has 5 days, not counting Sunday, to sign the bill into law. More from our James Dawson now, who has an update on another attempt to unravel the state of Idaho from its current physician education partnership.
The new plan from Republican Representative Dustin Manwaring would create 30 new seats with the University of Utah's medical school over the next 3 years. Beginning in the fall of 2027, Idaho would cut at least 10 guaranteed seats enrolled in the WWAMI program. Manwaring's bill would also direct the State Board of Education to draft a new medical education roadmap.
So we may have room to keep some of that WWAMI program, and I'm trying to give a path for the State Board to tell us how to do that.
Manwaring says WWAMI's leadership at the University of Washington has failed to expand Idaho's guaranteed seats in recent years. Republican Representative Mark Souter was the only lawmaker to vote against the bill's introduction. He says the bill puts the cart before the horse.
I have some real questions about really messing with the WWAMI program at all until we get some traction on a future program.
Manwaring's new proposal still needs a public hearing before it could reach the House floor. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Central District Health is warning of multiple food poisoning reports over the past few months tied to unlicensed food vendors. Idaho allows the sale of shelf-stable goods without a license, but perishable food sales, think vegetables, meat, and cooked rice or pasta, require a food license and food safety inspections. The health department says it's seen an uptick in unlicensed vendors or, quote, underground restaurants selling perishable, often prepared foods online made in residential kitchens. The district encourages people to avoid buying perishable food from these type of vendors. The director of the City of Boise's Office of Police Accountability says Boise police can do a better job during armed standoffs with suspects in mental health crises.
Officers are trained to secure the situation. Once it is secure, we really need to slow it down because we know that when things slow down, we have a greater chance for a positive outcome. That's
OPA Director Nicole McKay. Her office recently unveiled a list of recommended changes for BPD. She talks about that and her office's investigative reports. In an interview that you can hear on BoiseStatePublicRadio.org, she spoke with our George Prentice. You'll also hear that during Morning Edition on Thursday morning. That is the Connector for today. I'm Troy Oppie. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our digital strategy manager is Lacey Daly. Our general manager is Tom Michael. Thanks for your support. As listeners, we rely on you for the bulk of our funding. Find out more at boisestatepublicradio.org. And thanks. See you tomorrow.